Imagine we're in middle school, we were classmates and you sat next to me and you wanted to borrow a pencil. I would not be a good candidate for you to borrow this pencil from. It's not that I begrudge loaning out my Bic mechanical pencils or my pens with the eraser that doesn't really erase, but I'm going to have to ask you to go through a background check because I have been burned so hard during elementary school of loaning out pencils and not getting the pencils back in return. And some of them were very meaningful pencils. They were all meaningful pencils to me. I've received too many pencils that have come back that has been in somebody's ear, been up somebody's nose. I don't know why some people like to put pencils in their holes, in various orifices on their bodies and their faces. And I've received pencils with teeth marks, like not from somebody's dog, but from their actual teeth. So by the time I reached middle school, 7th grade in 1997, I was very discerning about who I loaned out my school supplies to. I'm gonna have to interview your friends. I have to do an entire character profile of you. Like, are you worthy enough to receive my Bic mechanical pencil? If you're the type of person that likes to take that whiteout pen, shake it up, and draw on your 5-star notebooks or draw on your JanSport backpacks, you're not getting the pencil, okay? If you're a boy who just recently frosted his tips, I would think, you know, you're really cute, but cuteness doesn't mean that you're getting my pencil. I was a very particular girl, just like that clip of Wes Anderson just blowing his lid. I don't know if it's real or if it's for a joke, but he said, "I am Wes effing Anderson, and I need everything to be symmetrical." I was the same way with my school supplies. I knew where every pencil and every pen was in my pencil pouch. I took care of my dividers. I made sure that they never ripped in the 3-ring binder. So what's my point here? I'm wondering that myself, but we'll arrive at that shortly because I have another story to tell you. When I was in college, I took a class called Renaissance and Baroque Art History. I wasn't an art history major. This was just for an elective. This class was notoriously hard. You had to memorize thousands, tens of thousands of paintings with biblical imagery. The same biblical imagery, the crucifixion, the Annunciation, the birth of Christ. When we move into the Baroque period, we have the same biblical imagery, just drawn in a more robust manner. We have a gallery of Dutch still lifes. You have to remember who painted it, the exact year it was painted, how it was painted, the mediums involved. It was like the ultimate exercise in Trivial Pursuit. And the professor would always choose the most obscure painting painted by the most obscure artist in the most obscure year. I happen to be an ace at this. I'm not so sharp on my art history right now, but back in the day, I was like some kind of idiot savant, and I was able to list off paintings and artist names and dates with lightning fast speed. I have an uncanny ability to remember very trivial things, where my pens are in my pencil pouch, every single credit card and where they're located in my wallet. Back in the day, I used to be a whiz at Renaissance and Baroque art history. So I tell you these stories to illustrate that this kind of mind at a library of trivial information is never useful in a real life situation. But if you want to know everything that somebody wore in 1997, when you come to me, I will recount for you a slice of fashion history of 1997. My name is Teresa. I'm an idiot and a savant. I'm an idiot savant. This is fashion of 1997. The inspiration for this video came about because I have been watching a lot of video essays, reading a lot of articles about how kids are growing up way too fast, about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha are skipping the tween years and just meteorically going from kid to adult. There's been a lot of talk about how like 8-year-olds are asking for Sephora makeup, about how some mothers for some reason are posting their daughter's birthday/Christmas wish list online, and their wish list is comprised of luxury designer brands and Sephora makeup. Basically, there's no difference between this 8-year-old's Christmas wish list and like a 38-year-old's Christmas wish list. So what happened to childhood, and specifically what happened to the tween years, the awkward middle school years? Thinking about what tweens, specifically tween girls, are into now, made me feel nostalgic for what I was into as a tween. So 1997 was a very memorable year in terms of fashion for me. Like I noticed a lot of fashion trends and I still remember it very keenly to this day. So I actually came across a bunch of articles about how 1997 was the seminal year for fashion because that was when John Galliano debuted at Dior, the arrival of the it bag, the Fendi baguette bag. So that all happened in 1997, but that meant nothing to me because I was 13 years old. I was living by the freeway. I didn't know who John Galliano was, didn't know what Dior was, didn't know what Fendi was, very unaware of luxury fashion brands. I think that is probably one of the big differences that I see nowadays. I'm assuming because of social media, because of aggressive marketing by brands and a lot of influencer marketing. A lot of tweens are very aware about what the it bag is and are very well versed in their luxury designer brands. But as a 90s kid, the only designer brands that I was aware of were not even high-end designers. Nike was the cream of the crop, and then you have Adidas and Vans and Converses. It was just mostly shoe brands. I think at my middle school, nobody really cared about what you wore in terms of your clothes unless it's like a Nike windbreaker. Nobody really cared about what kind of jeans you wore or what kind of jacket you wore. Of course, this pertained to my neighborhood in particular. We were mostly blue-collared, lower middle class to below the poverty line. Middle class was probably as high as the household economic threshold would go. Upper middle class was literally across the railroad tracks. So people at school either had your base level Nike or they just wore no brands at all. And if you came to school with the latest Air Jordans, the kids would be like, cool shoes, but it's not going to diminish your social cred if you weren't wearing branded shoes or branded clothing. Nobody was so in tuned as they are now to the latest collaborations, the Nike X blank collaboration, the limited edition drops. Case in point was that the first Nikes I ever purchased, it was in 8th grade. They looked similar to the Nike Dunks. The swoosh was in a foresty green. I purchased them in Chinatown. In retrospect, I realized they were probably knockoffs. They were $39.99 in Chinatown. I didn't know that they were knockoffs at the time because I was 13 years old and I didn't know that Chinatown sold knockoffs. Like I didn't know, like it's very common knowledge, but back then in the 90s, I didn't know that was a thing. So I thought they were real. I wore them to school. Nobody knew the difference. Everybody's like, cool shoes. Are those new? I've never seen those before. And I'm like, I guess they're unique. I guess they're exclusive or something. But it turned out they were knockoffs. Funny story is they are still around. My mom still wears them. They have shown no sign of wear and tear. I mean, they're a little beat up now because they're over 25 years old, but they're still going strong. These knockoffs are probably better made than the real thing now. That was my first pair of Nikes. They were more or less waterproof. They got me through El Nino. Later on, I bought a legit pair of Nikes. They were kind of, in retrospect, really ugly. I bought them at Mervyn's for like $45, which was a lot of money to me at the time. You know, inflation. They had a lot going on. It was edging into the early 2000s shoe. So in 1997, I was both very conscious of what I wore and also very price conscious. I've always been a very price conscious person. That is probably a symptom of coming from a lower middle class, first generation immigrant family. I look back remembering that we were lower middle class, but in actuality, for many years, we were actually poor. And I don't say this with shame. I say it with pride. We were poor. I was conscious that we were not financially well off, but I never felt poor, like really poor, because we had a stable home life. We never moved around. I had a stable school life. But I've always had, from a very young age, elementary school age, had a scarcity mindset where we were always scrimping and saving, never buy the branded food. If there was Oreos, we'd buy the store brand of Oreos. If there was Coca-Cola, we would buy Shasta. Always frequented the 99-cent store, Pick and Save, Big Lots, like those are the places. And I was just very price conscious. It's like I have a cash register in my head. If I go shopping for clothing, I would always go straight for the price tag. Like, where's the price tag? I would never, ever, ever buy anything that was not on sale. I would frequent the Target clearance rack, you know, looking through all the clothes. Very often Kmart would have this massive clearance purge where you have the colored stickers going down all the way to like 70% off. So the amazing thing was that throughout most of the 90s and into the early 2000s, none of my tops cost more than $5. Once I bought a top that was $7, and that was a splurge. My mom would not let me forget that. And I always thought that the mall was where rich people shopped. I always thought rich people shopped at Macy's, and then Nordstrom was like for the very rich. I couldn't even set foot into Nordstrom's. I thought if you could afford something from the mall, then you've made it. I was frugal to the point of major scarcity mindset, but at the same time, I cared about my clothes. So I would dress very normcore. Aspirationally, I would have liked to dress like a Spice Girl, but because I was very, very frugal and very, very price conscious, and also now I realize poor, I couldn't dress like them. Like every piece of clothing that I purchased, I had to make sure that it would last me for a couple of years. So at 12 years old in 7th grade, I was already putting together a very budget-friendly normcore wardrobe. And in terms of quality, it was very easy to do. Like a $3 shirt from the Target clearance rack in 1997, quality-wise, was greater than what you could buy at H&M now, what you can buy at Zara now, or COS now. I didn't consider it fast fashion because like I would literally wear that shirt to death because it was normcore, like it didn't really go out of style. So this picture right here is basically my normcore uniform back in 1997. Light wash, straight leg jeans, a carryover from 96. All white canvas tennis shoe, non-branded from Payless. So I figure if I couldn't afford brands, I'm gonna go all non-branded. So I unintentionally went normcore. So I got this like Eastpak backpack from Target. JanSport was where it was at. But the Eastpak backpack was equally as well made, but it just wasn't JanSport. So I spent a lot of time with my thread ripper taking off the little Eastpak logo. So it would be like a non-branded backpack. And I believe I put together this budget-friendly normcore wardrobe so well that sometime in 8th grade, somebody thought I was rich. They're like, I bet you're one of those rich Asians that lives in those 2-story houses across the school. I'm like, what? I think there's a stereotype of thinking that Asians are rich. I'm not a crazy rich Asian. I'm an effing poor Asian. Like if I were to be approached by a street style interviewer back in 97 and I had to show off my like, what do the kids call it nowadays? My drips. I had to show off my drips. Everything I wore probably cost less than $15. The lesson I learned from dressing normcore is that it cuts both ways. If you are rich and you don't want others to know how wealthy you are, you're going for that stealth wealth aesthetic. Normcore would make people think that you're middle class, well-dressed, middle-class person. If you are on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're poor and you dress normcore, and you can put together a very fashionable normcore wardrobe for not much money. Normcore is the great equalizer of rich and poor. And inside normcore, that is where we will find true peace. True peace. It's the people's clothes. There was a dominant color in 1997. It was as if the avocado green fridge of the 1970s came together with a bright neon lime green and they had a baby. I believe the color is called chartreuse. It was a green color that I saw everywhere, especially on TV. I remember Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Xander was possessed by the hyena spirit. Xander was a shy, reticent, dorky character, but when he was possessed by the hyena spirit, he suddenly became a bad boy. And that was when he started to wear like a silky lime green shirt. And I remember that there was a teacher who was also a praying mantis. She wore lime green nail polish. We have Scary Spice wearing lime green, and she and Sporty Spice, they were basically carrying the entire band. Sabrina, the teenage witch, if you remember in her intro, also wore an outfit with this green chartreuse color. I was able to dig up this, it's not a top, it's actually my house bra. It's what I wear around the house to combat the effects of Gravity. This is the color I'm talking about. If I pair this with my army green cargo pants, and I literally have Scary Spice's outfit in the wannabe music videos. This is the color of boldness, of power, and of aggression if you were possessed by a hyena spirit. I don't know if I've just become more prudish in my older age because I was born in the former century, the 1900s. Let that sink in for you. I see women wearing this as tops, and I'm like, young lady. There was a heavy 70s comeback. This portion, this window in time in the late 90s, I like to refer to as the 70s, 90s. Those who worked in fashion in the 90s had 70s childhood, so there was this entire 70s nostalgia, and that bled into everyday fashion. For instance, there were ringer tees with rainbow edgings, rainbow graphics. There was a very popular shirt that circulated around my middle school. It was a polyester, floral printed, black and white shirt. Let me just refer to some mall wallet photos. This pattern, 1 in 3 girls in my middle school had this shirt. There was also the return of the have a nice day happy face that was so popular in the 70s. It was on ringer tees in the 90s. I myself had a mini backpack that was just a giant happy face. I loved this backpack. I put some of my Goosebump books in this backpack. I never wore it to school because it didn't go with my normcore school wardrobe. I was really strict about that for some reason. At 12 years old, I was kind of crazy. I was very particular about like how certain colors need to come together. That's why I understand the sad beige millennial moms neutralizing their kids' nursery, because I myself was insane. So in keeping in line with the 70s comeback, a lot of girls in my school wore mood rings. For hair accessories, we had butterfly clips, the snap berets. So I have some snap clips that I bought recently because of nostalgia reason. Right now I have a side part, but back in 97, I had a middle part. It was like a middle to side part, and I would wear them right here, like here. Snap clips suck. Like right here, like this, you know? That's how I would wear my hair. But my snap clips were in silver and red. There would be the ultimate, the cream of the crop, which is the claw clip. Claw clips are really big right now, but they're designed in a more geometrical fashion. But back then they were just regular claw clips. I had a glow in the dark one, which I never wore to class. I only wore my snap berets. There was a girl in my class, every single period, some boy would yank off her claw clip and toss it around the room. He made her cry. I was sitting like right next to her, and I remember this giant tear leaked down her eyes. So that boy, he spiked up his hair and he frosted his tips, and you could tell that he was trouble. I think he had a crush on her, actually. That's what boys did to girls that they have crushes on. They like to torment them. So that's the kind of character that I would never loan out any of my pencils to. And I think he tried to mess with my hair berets, but I think I karate chopped him in the arm and just went, what? You know, I'm small, but sometimes I'm a little violent. If that were to happen nowadays, there would be some words between the teacher and my parents. The girl next to me should have chopped him as well, but she didn't, and he made her cry multiple times. She was wearing these flatforms, you know, like the Steve Madden black flatforms. If she had just taken her flatform, taken it off, whacked him upside the head with it, I think it would make him stop picking on her. Bear in mind, I am not a parent. I am not advocating that you encourage your child to start whacking people over the head with their shoes. But you know, back in my day, in the latter half of the 1900s, everybody in my class probably knew what it felt like to be disciplined with a flip-flop. Thing is, like, if you get hit by a flip-flop, it doesn't really hurt, okay? You just feel a little like, what the hell? Nowadays, I think if you were to hit somebody with a similar shoe, like a Croc platform, maybe that would hurt. Ooh, if you got hit by a Birkenstock. If you got hit by a Birkenstock right now, that's actually abuse. If I was running like a military boot camp, the first thing I would do is that I would hit everybody with a flip-flop. Private, stand up straight. Whack, whack. You poor excuse for a human being. Whack, whack. And let me just move on. For makeup, there was 2 styles. Frosty eyeshadow, frosty iridescent nail polish, frosty lips. Like, everything had to be frosty. Like, the boys frosted their tips and the girls frosted their face. Or you went the darker route, like you went down a dark alley of brown lipstick, maroon lipstick, vixen red nail polish. I would say that in my school, more girls wore brown lipstick and brown lip liner, just the lip liner with no lipstick, than there were frosty lipstick. And in terms of nostalgia, even though we were all in 7th grade, 12, 13 years old, we were nostalgic for our childhood. There was a lot of Sesame Street mini backpacks, like backpacks for children being worn by 13-year-olds. Here's that nod to the 70s again. Sesame Street has a very 70s aesthetic. There was a lot of platforms, flare-legged jeans, rave beaded bracelet candies or something, brown lipstick or just the lip liner, pencil thin brows, frosty eyeshadow, a lot of like bustiers. Like, you know in Selena where she was wearing that bustier and her father freaked out about the bustier? Like there were some bustiers being worn. That was like a ticket to be sent home to change or wear your PE sweatshirt over your bustier. But at the same time, it was paired with a kid's Sesame Street backpack or Elmo. Tickle Me Elmo was a big toy around 96. The same girls who would wear the bustier would go around class carrying around their Elmos. There was a lot of shiny airwalks. And then there was a lot of smokers in the corner. Actually, thinking about the latter half of the 1900s, 1997, it seems like the Wild West where people were getting disciplined by flip-flops and wearing bustiers to class, carrying around their Tickle Me Elmos and smoking after school. But that was my 12-year-old experience. I was a very particular girl about my school supplies. In 6th grade, I found on super discount the coveted 5-star notebook 3-ring binder, you know, the fabric covered binder. If you're a 90s kid, you know that this is the ultimate, the creme de la creme in terms of school supplies. And it came fully stocked with dividers and college ruled notebook paper. It was a thing of beauty. I felt so complete, you know, just so complete with this 5-star notebook, but it was heavy. Once you pack everything in there, it was like carrying a boulder on your back. I realized that I was treating this 5-star binder like it was an artifact at a museum. Like I was afraid to open the Velcro strap too much. I was afraid to scuff it in any way. Like I was just treating it like it was very precious, like it should be enclosed within glass. I wanted to let my hair down. Not a lot, but I just wanted to enjoy my school supplies. So then I opted for a cheaper binder and I was a little bit more carefree. I was a little less anal retentive with my school supplies. And I felt like a normal person with this regular 99-cent binder. I wasn't so picky about who I loaned my pencils to. But then in 8th grade, the 5-star binder was kind of falling out of popularity. So I found one at Target at an even steeper discount. It was like 60% off. It was like $7.99, guys. Usually these 5-star binders, what did they retail for back in the 90s? They were like $12.99. Like, are we made of money here? But this was like $7.99. And it was beautiful. Oh God. The zipper enclosure around it is actually, when I recount these binder stories to you, I think I actually sound crazy. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a little enthused about one's folders and binders. As Norman Bates said, we all go a little crazy sometimes. I don't know why I'm referencing a fictional serial killer for inspirational quotes, but there it is. C'est la vie. La-di-da, la-di-da. When I look back at my 90s childhood, that was ages ago, decades ago. It was in another century. Let that sink into you. It feels so close. It feels like just yesterday that I can almost reach out and touch it. I am standing in the cold and the dark on the lawn of my childhood home. I am standing in front of my living room window and I'm looking in. It's golden and it's cozy and it's warm and it's the 90s. I see myself at various stages of 90s kid, 8 years old. In one corner, I walk across the room. I'm 13 years old, walk across the room again. I'm 11 years old. TV's shifting. The TV's going from X-Files to Family Matters to Buffy, all the shows that I loved as a kid. I want so bad to enter that house and enter that room. I'm knocking on the door. I'm knocking on the window. Let me in. Let me in. But nobody will let me in because nobody will hear me. That house, that room, that cozy feeling, that nostalgia, the past, it's gone.
You can do as many reboots as you want. You can resurrect all the windbreakers and all the 90s fashion, but ultimately you can't live in the past anymore. You can't let the nostalgia be the only light in your dark, cold world. You need to find a flashlight somewhere in the present and make your own light. It's perfectly healthy to indulge in a bit of nostalgia, but it is not healthy to wear that nostalgia like an albatross around your neck and let it drag you down. My fellow 90s kids, repeat after me. The past's gone. It's gone. It's gone with the wind. It is literally a piece of history.